2017. It was warm today. How many sweat? I thought ladies didn't sweat, they just perspire. They glisten. You actually sweated, okay? Yeah, we got a lot done on the different projects here. And you got a song for us tonight. I don't know that I've heard this one, but you can give me the words, so I'll learn it tonight.
It's a great song. Yeah.
It's a great song. All right, Thomas, Anna, take it away. What do you got there?
It's called Dead Men Walking.
By John Tibbs. This is our acoustic version, though. Ready? All right.
Heaven knows I'm a broken man. These tired bones, they can barely stand. In the ways of the world, though I lay my grave, to the darkest of nights when you call my name. Your love, oh, it set me free. Oh, no guilt, no shame, got a hold on me. Your love, well, it opened my eyes. I was a dead man walking till you gave me life. Grace, it comes with a price I'm told. Took the light of the world just to save my soul. But in the valley of the shadow of the cross you'll find, oh, no brokenness when I come alive. Your love, oh, it set me free. Oh, no guilt, no shame, no hold on me. Your love, well, it opened my eyes. I was a dead man walking till Lord. I was a dead man walking till Lord. I was a dead man walking till Lord. You gave me life.
Amen. All right. How many have never heard that one before? We just sang it. You should pay attention next time. All right. Love doing that. Okay. Let's see. Microphone, camera, real professional here. I know. All right. Here we are, the June the 20th, and it is El Warmo in Alabama. But you know, it's beautiful at night around here, isn't it? You can go out on the dunes. Oh, man, I love this place. I went out last night looking at the stars and talked to the Lord for a while. Okay, we got a bunch of questions to answer. We're going to try to get into a Bible study one of these days when my brother straightens up, but he's a hunchback, so it might be a while. But we're working on that. Looking at 66 books. Take your pick. I'm really looking at Nehemiah. It's a cool one to study. So many great lessons there. Let's pray and we'll get into some Bible questions. Lord, thank you for loving us. Thank you for giving us a book that will tell us the truth and tell us how we got here, where we're going, what's going to happen when the world's over. So, Father, please, if someone listening tonight that's not one of your children, I pray that they'll give their heart to you and get born again. Get in the family. In Jesus' name, amen. Okay, questions from Gareth. Sorry for the delay here. Gareth, what's the date on this? Oh, no date. Yay, good. I guess I won't know if I'm late. My question is, why are humans occasionally found with tails and horns? If we've always been man, then why is this in our genetic code? Perfectly fair question. I Googled a couple of pictures on that. Let's see. Get down. Oh, right here. First, you got to click it over there. Then you got to move all this out of the way. There. Here is an interesting picture of a lady with an unusual growth, to say the least, coming out of the out of the forehead. It is not a horn. It is actually really, really, really tough skin. Okay? Here's one with a growth growing out of the forehead, one growing out of the finger. How about out of the earlobe, or the top of the ear? They can grow anywhere, okay? I had one on my back for a while, a little 1/4 inch long. They finally cut it off. There's a baby with sort of like a tail. It's actually a fatty tumor. This happens once in a while. There's somebody with one growing a little higher on their back. What do you do with this? How about this one growing up off the neck? It's a fatty. It's a bunch of fat in skin usually, okay? There's one that looks like tailbone. This one actually has vertebra in it, okay? Some early accounts say that there are sometimes extra vertebrae in such tails. No modern tails have been found to have any bone tissue. They're mostly skin with fat, connective tissue, nerves, and muscle. They can be just a stub, but some babies can be born with tails 13 centimeters long. See, 13 centimeters is what, about 5 inches or 4.5 inches? Okay, so yes, it's unusual, but it happens. What do you say? Well, I would say, first of all, it is an example of losing something, not gaining something. If it is, even if it were a tail, and all people today don't have them, that's the opposite of evolution. Evolution says we have to gain everything. You go from a rock to a human in 4.6 billion years. All they have are examples of losing, if they have any examples even of that. So I don't think they're tails. I think they're, like the Wikipedia said, just unusual growths of skin and tissue. Certainly not functional tail. You can't grab anything with it. Let's see. As far as horns, I think I had, well, the pictures there had the horns also. Okay. So hope that answers your question. I think it's a genetic goof. That happens from time to time. Again, it's no new information. It's a scrambling of existing information. That's all mutations ever are. We covered that on video number 4, lies in the textbooks. Here we go. Dr. Hovind, I'm looking at your theory, and I do agree about water coming out of the earth. But I also think it came from heaven. Because in the creation it says, in Genesis 1, 6 to 8, and on day 2, God made a firmament and called it heaven, and there was water above it and waters below. That is why Psalm 104 says the waters came from heaven. Now, Psalm 104 says, ye waters that be above the heavens, plural, in Psalm 104. Am I deceived by what I read, or can that be true? Please find the time to answer me. This is my 3rd time in 2 weeks, and I've not received anything from you. Oh, 2 weeks is really fast around here. Okay, 2 years on some to get an answer. Sorry about that. This is from Jacques. Sorry about that. Okay, Jacques, here's a couple things to consider on this question about where did the water come from. I apologize here. We've been out working in the dirt. Genesis chapter 1, verse 6. And God said, let there be a firmament in the midst of the waters, and let it divide the waters from the waters. Some people say, well, the firmament must be the dirt. No, the firmament is the air where the birds fly. It tells us in verse 20. With your King James Bible, just keep reading. It will interpret itself. God said, let the waters bring forth abundantly the moving creature that hath life, and fowl, that would be birds, that fly above the earth in the open firmament. The birds do not fly in the dirt. The birds fly in the air. So obviously the firmament is where the birds fly. The second heaven mentioned in the Bible is where the stars are. Let there be lights in the firmament of heaven. There's actually a third heaven only mentioned once in the Bible right here. 2 Corinthians 12. Apostle Paul is telling the story about the time he got rocked to sleep, or stoned to death, and he was caught up to the third heaven. I think that's what the story's about. So anyway, the heavens, plural, declare the glory of God. Genesis 1:1 should be heaven singular, because it wasn't until verse 6 when he started slicing it up and making heavens plural. And King James is one of the very few to get it right. Should have, in my book, I wrote what on earth is about to happen. Let's see. For heaven's sake, I wrote a whole section on that. Should Genesis 1:1, here we go, last couple pages of the book. Post-production questions and answers. Should Genesis 1:1 say heaven or heavens? And so I looked at a bunch of ancient Bibles. Let's see, English, Greek, French, German, Spanish. I got a whole list. Here's just a few of them here. Let's see if I can get that to focus. Oh, right there. All of them say heaven. 1384, John Wycliffe. In the beginning, God made out of naught heaven and earth. Of course, the English spelling was a lot different back then. So all of the old Bibles had heaven singular. And so there's a reason why, and I cover that in my book, which you can get for $35 on drdino.com. Okay, so let me go on here. Heaven. Now today it is heavens, plural. There are 3 heavens mentioned in the Bible. Get this finger on the button. No, heavens, plural. Okay. And God made the firmament and divided the waters which were under the firmament from the waters which were above the firmament. Well, if the firmament is at least where the birds fly, then how can you get water above that? Praise him, Psalm 104, Psalm 148. Praise him, ye heavens of heavens, and ye waters that be above the heavens. King David wrote this about 1,000 years before Christ. So there's still water above the heavens, plural. I think when God made the earth, there was a layer of air, maybe 10 miles thick, a layer of crystal and probably crystalline canopy above that, and then outer space full of stars, and then another crystalline canopy of ice. The whole universe that we see and marvel at in the sand dunes out here at night and go watch the stars is probably in a glass ball on God's dresser. Pick it up and shake it once in a while. Hey, how you doing in there? Wake up, get to work. So 2 Peter said, the scoffers are willingly ignorant of how God made the heavens, plural, how the heavens were of old and the earth standing out of the water and in the water. When God first made it, there was water in the crust of the earth and water and a canopy above the heavens. The Earth's atmosphere today has 6 layers. This is part of what I cover on my video number 2 of my series. There used to be a 7th layer, water above, probably ice, above the atmosphere. A couple inches, 3 or 4 inches of ice. I didn't know, nobody knows, it's all gone. Some of my old seminars say maybe 20 or 30 inches of ice. We don't know. But I found a reference that the Jews had taught at the time of Christ that it was 3 fingers thick. Now, how did they know? I don't know. It's gone. But a layer of water or ice above the earth, and your question here is, how could it be held up? Excellent question. Well, super cold objects, super cold magnets, there's a magnetic effect called the Meissner effect. A magnet will float on top of a super cold object. Liquid nitrogen, for instance, becomes a superconductor, and a magnet will float. So, and they're finding lots of ice clouds, and the space shuttle goes up, it leaves ice crystals behind, and they drift to the poles. They become magnetic. 200 miles up, 51 miles up, I'm sorry, 200 to grow. Here's the book of Josephus right here. We covered that last night or 2 nights ago with Paul Abramson. This is the skinny version of it, the big version. Anyway, in the book of Josephus, he said, God set the heaven above the universe, surrounding it with ice. That's what the Jews have always believed. Another version of Josephus said he placed a crystalline firmament round it. So there was a crystalline canopy above the atmosphere and water in the crust of the earth. And another question coming up is going to deal with this one, so I'll go ahead and cover it. It says he founded the earth upon the seas and established it upon the floods. Today the oceans are on top of the water. Used to be most of the water was in the crust of the earth. Psalm 33. He gathered the waters of the sea together as a heap and layeth up the depth in storehouses. The oceans used to be stored in the earth. Psalm 136. He stretched out the earth above the waters. There used to be a canopy of ice above, water or air to breathe, maybe 10 miles thick, crust of rocks to stand on, the dirt, the crust of the earth, maybe 8 or 10 miles thick, and then water in the crust of the earth. This is all changed now at the time of the flood, and the earth is round and it does spin. But this is the way the earth was originally, with water inside. Now, one of the best books on this topic is Walt Brown's book, In the Beginning. Walt Brown, we sell it $35 in our bookstore. Excellent. Fabulous on the subterranean water. Now, he does not believe in the canopy above. He will keep studying. He'll get there. But his book is fabulous. But in Genesis 7, it says, the fountains of the great deep were broken up, and the windows of heaven were opened. 2 things happened to cause the earth to flood. The water underneath came shooting to the top, and it rained for 40 days and 40 nights. But it kept coming up for 150 days. This is a picture from Walt Brown's book. His hydroplate theory, I think, is spot on. Water underneath would go shooting up as the earth cracked up along the current plates that we still have. The San Andreas Fault, the Hayward Fault, where Earth's all busted up like an eggshell. The water would go shooting out so fast under, say, 10 miles of rock that the pressure would probably launch things into orbit. A cubic foot of rock weighs about 160 pounds, depending on the kind of rock, of course, 140 to 180. 10 miles of rock would put 8.5 million pounds of pressure per square foot. That's a squirt gun. That's about 30 tons per square inch. At 30 tons per square inch, once that water finds a way out through that rock, because the rock is cracked, it's going to shoot things into orbit, escape velocity, 25,000 miles an hour. I think during the time of the flood, stuff went shooting off of the earth. Couldn't prove any of this, just my theory, okay? Give me a break. Shot millions and millions of rocks, all different sizes, up into space. As the crust of the earth came unglued like an eggshell, broke into pieces. Then we keep going around the sun. And the moon keeps going around the Earth, and the two of us together are start running into all this debris that got launched off. And it'll float around in space till something smacks it like a bug on a windshield. And that could be the reason why the moon has, opposite sides of the moon have different crater patterns. The side we see has great big craters on it. The other side has even smaller craters. They're the ones that shot out, turned around, and came back because of the moon's gravity. I don't know. You'll see the movie when we get to heaven. But there are craters all over the Earth also. Some really big ones, like the Yucatan Peninsula, somebody asked about in a minute here. I've been to the Barringer crater. You got to pay $12 to go see a hole in the ground. Think about it. Oh well, I did. I did my duty going across Winslow, Arizona. Nothing else to see in Arizona, so we stopped. But it's about, what, 3/4 of a mile across. There's one in Quebec, Canada that's 47 miles across. The one in Yucatan, I don't know how big it is. It's awful big. Peninsula, Mexico. So as the water escapes from underneath, several things are going to happen. The crack is going to get wider, allowing what's underneath to bulge up inside of it, the basalt, explaining why we have a mid-Atlantic ridge. It's also going to make the continent slide away. Probably, Walt Brown figures up to 40 miles an hour they would slide. Just like you have a spring compressed under two bricks, when you pull the bricks back, the spring will pop up. That would be the effect of the basalt underneath. As it slides up, it's going to make the continent slide away, which is the best way to explain the wrinkled mountains. Obviously, pushed from the side, like running carpeting up into the wall. It's going to make wrinkles in it. So, folded mountains are best explained by lateral compression. More on that on DVD number 6, called the Hovind theory. So, I think the Earth was busted up at the time of the flood, and the water underneath explains where most of the flood water came from. Did I finish? Let's see. Question again, I'll read it again. I'm looking at your theory, and I do agree about water coming out of the Earth, but also think it came from heaven. Well, yes, some of that would have shot up into space and come back. But the rain only lasted 40 days. The flood waters came up for 5 months, so it's not all coming from rain. Also, as the water underneath would escape, the crust would settle down into the cavity. And that would cause the Earth to speed up in its spin. Maybe that's why all the ancient calendars have 360 days in their year, and we've got 365.2422. We're sped up because of this. It's not the Earth didn't shrink, but the mass was more centralized because rock is heavier than water. They would trade places. Okay. So, third time you asked in 2 weeks and didn't receive anything. Tell you what, Jock, call next time. I get calls all day long, and half the night. 855-BIG-DINO extension 3, and it'll take you to me. And if I'm tired or want to go to sleep or take a shower, I shut it off. Call back. Questions? In the Hovind theory, you said there was a super cold canopy of ice above the atmosphere, and that's why humans live to be 900. That would be one of the factors. I just had a slide here. Where's the home button on it? Home. Okay. This guy added more CO2 to his pine trees. Normal pine tree with 385 parts per million, 0.0385%. It grew this tall. When he added 50%, it grew this tall. When he added 300%, it grew this tall, just adding CO2. He didn't try filtered sunlight, which the canopy would do and block out UV light. He didn't try increasing air pressure. He didn't try perfect Garden of Eden soil. He didn't try playing music to his trees. We cover that on video number 2, the Garden of Eden. What was it like? And there's an article right here from. I just found it and stuck it up here. Oh, New Scientist. It's from last November 2016. But an article from New Scientist about incredible amount of water deep in the crust of the Earth. There is still lots of water in the crust. Okay, second one, number 2. If the layers of strata, there are always less advanced species at the bottom, as Bill Nye suggests. Well, Bill Nye's simply wrong about that. They're not found necessarily in the order that he's talking about. They've got, if you look at, let me get page up to where I want to go here. If you watch my video number 6, where I talk about the Hovind theory, what happened at the time of the flood. I need the mouse to work here for me. Okay. Oh, right there. Back up, right there. In the Scopes monkey trial, I was looking today, Anna, for the black book about the world's most famous court trial. It's about an 1.25 inches thick. It looks about like a Bible. I couldn't find it quickly, so anyway, I've got it in here somewhere. Huh? There's still boxes of books. I know, I need more shelving in here. That's what I need. Or less books. I'm a bookaholic. Anyway, during 1925 Scopes monkey trial, they call it, they have somebody, this world's most famous court case, somebody turned it into a book. The atheist lawyer, Clarence Darrow, for the ACLU, which is the American Communist Lawyers Union, Clarence Darrow said, the lowest layers are obviously the oldest. No, Clarence, they are not obviously the oldest. When water is moving sideways, it deposits multiple layers at the same time. There's a, lady, do you know where that video is of the science experiments from Colorado at the Navy sedimentation tank? The guy speaking did a fabulous job, a little slow and boring, like speed it up, man, say something. But it was fabulous material. Experiments in Stratification is the name of it. It's a video, not a DVD, and it's in our library somewhere. Yeah, that narrows it way down, at least to 100 acres or so. So if you find it, let me see that again. I want to add some clips to my seminar. Anyway, the Navy has this huge flume, a 3-foot by 3-foot tank and glass sides, and they pump water through there. And as the water circulates along through this flume, this tube, it drops off sediments, and they put obstacles in the way. What they're doing is they're studying underground water, under ocean water currents are going to be depositing sediments. So the bottom of the ocean is always changing. And they want to keep accurate maps so they know where they can park their submarines and hide for a while. That's important to them. So that's why they study sedimentation rates. And they did this and showed very clearly water moving horizontally deposits many layers at the same time, which means you could have a fossil on top that is older than a fossil later deposited down here. It is not true that the ones on the bottom have to be the oldest. Don't fall for that. And we talk about stratification on video number 4, lies in the textbooks, and video number 6. Index fossils, okay, that's it. So, simply not true. And if there is any order to the fossilization, if there is any order, like say clams are usually found at the bottom, I would agree. Not always, but they're found at the top of Mount Everest, But if clams are found at the bottom, and it's interesting, clams on Mount Everest, over here, okay. Many millions of the clams are found in the closed, petrified position. When a clam dies, go to Pensacola Beach, you can find 1 million seashells, but you never find a matched pair hardly, and they're certainly not closed if they're dead. As soon as they die, they open up and something eats them. Seagulls or fish or something gets in their critter. So petrified clams are usually at the bottom of the geologic column, though not always. There is not a order like they talk about. The debate, everybody's saying I was a coward for not uploading the debate that I did a week ago with, what's the guy's name? Well, Steve was sick and in the hospital, 3 times? And so, sorry. I'm not afraid of anything I did in the debate. All he proved was exactly what I said. Bones in the dirt. Lots of bones are found in the dirt. Yeah. Also proves they got a lot of money to waste going around digging for bones in the dirt. Our dog up here, we don't pay him nothing. He digs for bones in the dirt. Don't have to pay him a thing. But if clams are found at the bottom and birds are found at the top of the so-called geologic column, and they want to interpret that to say, aha, clams evolved first and birds evolved last. No, duh. Clams are already at the bottom when the flood starts. That's where they live. Hello. They're going to be the first ones buried. And birds are the last ones buried in a flood because they float. And plus they're the last ones to die. Maybe they're buried based upon their body density. Maybe they're based on their habitat. Clams are already at the bottom when it started, so they're covered up in mud seams and they wake up dead. They can't even open. So there might be other explanations, like maybe it's based on intelligence. Clams aren't too bright as far as anybody can tell, just not too smart. And so they might be based on some sorting based on intelligence. Body density, body texture, how the water would flow around them, all sorts of things enter into stratification. Anyway, let's see. I told you my hair was going to go poof. Anna, you know about that, don't you? Yeah. Okay. You should find advanced species in a layer of strata below a less advanced species. Well, first of all, no name on. Oh, Corey, define advanced species for me. A single bacterium, okay, like real tiny bacterium. That little one cell does everything that your whole body does. It eats, digests, excretes the waste, a respiration process, responds to its environment, reproduces. It does it all in one cell. So are we more advanced or less advanced than them? Think about that one for about a year. Okay. So, no, first of all, they're not necessarily in the order they show in the textbooks with farm, F-A-R-M, fish, amphibian, reptile, mammal. No, they're scattered all over the place. But even if there is some kind of order, it's best explained by a flood, hydrologic sorting. Oh, man. I was going to get to aliens. I don't want to get into... I'll do these another... this one is a short one. Do you think the asteroid impact caused the Gulf of Mexico? No, I do not. I think the Gulf of Mexico right here is filled in with water from the ocean backing up from the Atlantic, and I covered that on video number 6. It probably backfilled and carved the canyon between Cuba and Florida. 90 miles across there, but there's an underwater canyon where the water flowed in. So probably the Gulf of Mexico filled in 50 years after the flood went down. The continents arose, the ocean sank down. As the ice caps melted back, the water's going to rise and fill in the Gulf of Mexico, and probably the Black Sea, and probably the Mediterranean Sea. You need to watch video number 6. We're over time. That'll help cover it all. I talk fast, don't I, Lady Di? Yeah. Oh well. Hit slow on your deep. They have a slow button on the DVD. They don't have one, do they?
There is one on the
There is one? On the controller, okay. Well, see you tomorrow night. No, I won't see you. You can see me. I can't see you. We'll do that whole tomorrow night. Thank you for joining us. Now, where's the mouse here? There it is. Okay. If you have questions, send them in. We probably will never get to them, but we'll try. You can go to drdino.com or just call 855-BIG-DINO. Listen, if you're not a Christian, what on earth are you waiting for? Give your heart to the Lord, get saved, and find something to do for God with your life. And if God calls you,